Good morning. We will begin the council meeting. First, we'll have the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. We have Craig Bourne, the pastor of the Gethsemane Lutheran Church, and then Councilman John Pettis will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand?
I'm privileged to center our thoughts this morning on the Word of God. This City Council, its work, decisions, and the laws it puts into effect and upholds are important. The citizens thank you for serving, for gathering facts, for studying the topics, and seeking to make the best decisions for this great city. Even as we ask the Lord to watch over your work this morning, and as important as this work is, however, no laws, city budgets, or meeting agendas can or will ever make someone right before God or get them to heaven. In fact, nothing in us can, because everyone is sinful, including all of us in this room this morning. Sin is lack of love towards God. It is disobedience of God that He says deserves eternal death and punishment. But thankfully, God promises that He saved us, not because of something that we did, but because of His Son, Jesus Christ. God loved us and sent Jesus as a perfect substitute for everyone. His sacrifice into death on the cross is the good news that sins are forgiven. His resurrection from the dead on Easter Sunday assures us that this is true. Sins are forgiven in Christ. We're right with God in Christ. Knowing and believing that will give perspective to the work done here today, the decisions reached, and the work in this city yet to do. The Word of God to consider before this City Council meeting from Romans chapter 3. Therefore, no one will be declared righteous in his sight by observing the law. But now, a righteousness from God apart from law has been made known. This righteousness from God comes through faith in Jesus Christ to all who believe. Amen.
Will you join me in pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No items from the Office of the Mayor this morning, so we'll move on to the Journal of Council Proceedings. Item A is to receive the Journal of Council Proceedings for March 4th, 2014. Item B is to approve the Journal of Council Proceedings for February 25th, 2014.
Second.
Please cast your vote. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Now, the request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, on page 8 on the consent docket, under item 6AA, page 8, 6AA, there's a vacation request on there, a roadway vacation request, and we'd ask that that be stricken. There's apparently a storm sewer that needs to be dealt with in that area, so we'd ask that that be stricken and brought back at a later date. Again, that is AA, 6AA on page 8. And then moving to page 13, under item 8B1, item B, 1312 Louise Avenue. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has removed. And on to 8C1, B, 1911 North Classen. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item C, 1225 East I-44 Service Road. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item E, 710 West Hill Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item G, 427 Southwest 4th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item N, 1428 Southwest 34th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item O, 1413 Southwest 44th Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item Q, 40 Northeast 65th Street. We ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And then moving on to page 15, under items from council, item 10A, we ask that that resolution be deferred for 2 weeks.
All right, thank you. Any other items? Okay, we will now recess the council meeting and convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authorities. Any comments or questions?
Second.
Okay, please cast your vote. It's approved unanimously. Jim, are we going to do a presentation at this time?
Yes, Diana Berry and Colin Fond are here, and Colin, or Diana, one of them.
Well, Colin's going to do it. I just wanted to say that we're very excited to present you with this item today. We've been working on this for a number of years, and I'm going to turn it over to Colin Fonda, and he's going to make a brief presentation, but we are excited about this opportunity.
Thank you, Diana. This is the third step in the process. We issued a request for proposals for employee medical clinic, and this is we're asking the trustees and council for permission to negotiate a contract. And this has taken us a year to get to this point, and that's because we wanted to vet the proposers that came through a little more deeply. This is a big change in concept for us, and having a clinic on site as opposed to going through traditional medical plans. So we've taken a little time purposely on this. These clinics will emphasize preventative medicine and chronic health care for people, and our whole outcome of this is that hopefully we're going to have a healthier population of employees, and so that will reduce our cost over the long haul. So we wanted to take our time and give you a little heads up on this, that we were working through this process, and we've selected a company, CARE ATC, to discuss with. This does not obligate the council to enter into a contract with them. We're going through the process of actual negotiations and where can we come out with better outcomes for the city and our employees, and that we will do this at a long-term cost savings goal for us. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to bring anybody up to date on where we are in this process. And hope things along. Yes, ma'am.
Have we decided on a location yet?
We have not decided on a location. There's been some discussion. We could possibly have a city-owned facility available to us that we'd have to find and build out, and the associated costs with that, or CARE ATC may go out into the marketplace and rent a facility. And then we'll figure that into the cost pricing of it, but we don't know which path to go down yet.
Let me just say that the item that you have, the projected cost that's been presented with the item today, that is with CARE ATC actually providing the facility. And if you will note, that includes all of our eligible participants on the city's health insurance plan, as well as the under age 65 retirees.
Have you all set a target date yet for the operation?
We would like to have the clinic open by January 1st of 2015, if not before. That will give us ample opportunity to market the clinic, because we do believe that the cost savings we're going to derive the cost savings by our plan participants actually utilizing the facility, as opposed to utilizing the health insurance plan for those services that CARE ATC could provide at the clinic.
Now, assuming for a second that the facility is located downtown, have we a strategy in place, or have been thinking about a strategy? How do we get the workers from our remote locations down here to take advantage of that?
Well, those are various things that we'll discuss through the contract negotiations.
Okay, that's not a contract matter. It's a policy matter how the city's going to handle its employees in those remote areas. I would think that'd be more focused on as a responsibility of the city to develop that.
Council, we have talked about this, the fact that we have over 4,000 employees, and we have firefighters that are not downtown. The 1,000 of them are firefighters who are out in 30-some fire stations across the city. We have over 1,000 police officers that are we have street department people that are out in the city, parks department people that are out in the city, water people that are out in water treatment plants and such. So all the people are not in a specific area. The majority of the people are on the campus downtown, and it's the most centrally located. So we would think that would be the place that we would start, as long as there's good access in and out.
I think it's a great idea, but I think we ought to be giving some thought to a strategy as to how we're going to offer this same level of treatment to remotely located employees.
Well,
We're going to have
the-
a
the
bus
fa-
to bring them
yeah.
in, or give them time off to come in. Those sort of things need to be thought up ahead of time.
Well, but if they're going to the doctor now, they are taking off time, and if you're at the Draper treatment plant, there isn't any clinic out anywhere near there. So if you're coming downtown, that's probably as close as where you're going now. And right now, to go to a clinic, you get to use your sick leave to do that, and we'd assume that would continue.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to mention, Councilman, is part of our discussion that we've had with CARE-ATC and will be included in the contract negotiations is whether or not we need multiple facilities. We have a significant number of individuals that are on our health insurance plan, and so that will be part of the discussion. And that's what I meant by that would be part of the contract negotiations as to whether or not we need multiple facilities, 2 facilities as opposed to just 1. The other thing I want to clarify is that the firefighters are not included in the numbers that we've presented you with, since they have their own health insurance plan, and I just wanted to make that clear. So it's the firefighters who retired on or after January 1st of 2003 are not on the city's health insurance plan, and so are not part of this program.
But in order to make the long-term financing as good as possible, we need to get as many people participating in this as we can.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we will now adjourn the OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. Any questions or comments on these items?
Second? And David, Mayor, I did have a quick question, maybe
Yes.
for the manager. On the plans and specs for all the door replacement out at Norrick Arena, aren't many of these buildings coming down when we build the new expo hall?
Some are, not all. And so they're looking at that, and obviously if the building's coming down in a short time, we're not going to do replacements in that area.
Okay, I just wanted to sort of point out that it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to replace doors in buildings that are, and I think that schedule is fairly, after next year's.
Well, I
fair.
think is this primarily in the Norrick Arena? The Norrick Arena is saying.
Well, this also discusses the Centennial Building, Modern Living, Hobbies, Arts and Crafts, Creative Arts, Expo Halls 1, 2, and 3. So,
Eric, can you address that?
Eric, I don't know if you heard my question, but I just wanted to be sure that we were not spending a whole lot of money replacing doors in buildings that were coming down to build the new Expo Hall out at the fairgrounds.
It's my understanding this is primarily for the Norrick Arena, and it's really for the existing glass storefronts that are aged and just hard to repair, so we're replacing all that new glass storefront across the front. And the Norrick Arena does not come down as a part of any MAPS work.
Right. The memo referenced a lot of the other buildings where we
And I
had
think
done
there's some other
assessments.
miscellaneous repairs, but the predominant one is the Norrick Arena.
Okey doke. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready to vote? It passes unanimously. We will now adjourn the OCPPA and convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistant Trust. And we just have the claims and payroll. Okay, any questions? It passes unanimously. We will now adjourn the OCEAT and reconvene the council meeting. And we have the consent docket. Okay, thank you. Any individual considerations?
We do have a presentation today on a trail, Map Street Trails project, so David Todd is here to do that, but we'll see if there's any other items.
Okay. Thank you.
There it is. Well, good morning. I'm pleased to bring you this presentation about the MAPS 3 River Trail today. The river trail is approximately eight miles long, and it goes, as the name implies, right along the river. It goes from Meridian out to 10th Street. This is basically an overall drawing of that. Well, this is really the eastern side of it. So 8 miles, and this section that we're looking at today is about 4.5 miles of that. The other 3.5 is under construction right now. So this trail can start over here on the east side, the right side of the page. It starts at basically the Meridian Landing area, and it goes across the Meridian Bridge, and it's using some existing sidewalk right now on that bridge, but that bridge is planned to be replaced here real soon with a public works project, so that will be enlarged. But then it loops around and goes underneath, and you can see that it traverses, it's that little hard to see yellow line on there. It traverses around the sedimentation area and then gets right down along the river and goes through some wooded areas, snakes its way along there, and then gets up through the Crystal Lake area and loops across the northern part of Crystal Lake, and then connecting back to the river and getting back into the wooded areas and going to the river. This is a typical section. It's not a sidewalk, it's a trail, so it's 12 feet wide. It's asphalt with a treated subgrade and some shoulders on there. So zooming up a little closer, you can see what I was talking about as far as where it connects on the right with the Garver Trail, what we refer to as the Garver Trail, the one that's already under construction, there at County Line, going right along the river, then along Crystal Lake, and then continuing on to the east along the lake, around the sedimentation area, and then connecting there at Meridian Landing. So not extremely complicated. It's going along the trail. Schedule, if it's approved today, then we'll advertise for bids tomorrow. Bid opening will be April 1st. Award of contract will be in early part of May after it goes through the subcommittee and advisory board and then back to you. And then we anticipate completion about January of 2015. And when this is complete, that entire river trail will be complete because the other one's already under construction. As far as cost estimate, right now we have about $3.6 million estimated for this project, and with a project budget of about $4.5 million. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
We got,
David, are there any plans to put any lights on these trails?
No, there are not any lights. A lot of it is very wooded and secluded.
That would need lights more than any place.
you know, I had a call yesterday about lights on the trails, and I talked to both the Parks Director and the Police Chief, and the consensus was that they don't encourage people to be on trails after dark. You know, it's the people, it's just from public safety standpoint. There's at nighttime, there's fewer people down there, and they're great recreational activities, but there's fewer people there, and we don't want to have the expectation that it's a safe place when there's a lot of dark areas and a lot of secluded areas at night. Also, you know, one of the great things about the river trail, different from some of the other trails we have, is there's almost no vehicular interface. You can start down all the way down to I-35 and go along, and you go under every major road as you come up, and it's really a great place. You don't, you know, for families and small children and such, you don't have to worry about that vehicular interface. Hefner's a great trail, but there's all kinds of places where you deal with cars. The Katy Trail is pretty good, but there's a few places where you cross the road. You cross 36th Street, and you know, and you cross 16th Street in there. Pretty good trail, but you know, it's much better than Hefner. But this is great because you can go miles and miles without any vehicular interface. And the other thing that's great about this is it's along the river, so it's the lowest place in Oklahoma County is along the river, and so it's the least likely place to have wind. And our wind's generally out of the north and the south, so you almost always have a side wind when you're on the trail. So as far as biking trails, this is going to be a great addition. And then with the mileage that we have from the existing trails, you know, it's right now you've got, you know, 7 to 8 miles, and you're adding another 7 to 8 miles on it. You get into a 14 to 16 mile round trip up to Overholser and back. Plus the potential to expand around Overholser and then all the way up to Hefner, around Hefner if you choose to.
Are there mileage markers on the trails?
Well, there are not.
They're not.
Well,
Not now.
We are adding mileage markers on this project.
Will there be an opportunity for groups to reserve parts of the trail to have a 5K run or something along those lines, especially since it's, you know, you don't have the interference with traffic?
We have those we have runs almost weekly
Oh,
on the
okay.
river trails now, that they're reserved, and they're open for other activities, but they're not uniquely reserved, but they do have special races down there almost every weekend during the summertime.
David, I was just going to comment, Councilman McAtee and I had a chance to be down at the Meridian Landing for one of the river stakeholder meetings last week, and it's just exceptionally beautiful. It is so nice to see and to have people outside, and the way the hotels, we've got 4 hotels now that have lined up right there along the river, and each one of them looks like they have a patio facing the river on the backside, and it's really developing into an exciting core. And I can just visualize, having extended stay, business travelers and things in those facilities, that having this trail connection will be a real amenity.
Right, well, we hope this trail encourages more people to go down there.
And we were able to enhance that trail down there by some TIF dollars that were made available from the Dell TIF.
Get back on the events. Do they not have to have an event permit?
Absolutely, yes, they do.
They do?
Yes, they
Okay.
do.
It just doesn't have to be approved by council? Because I don't ever remember seeing one like that.
Not if you're in the right-of-way. If you're on the trail itself, parks can do that administratively.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions for David? David, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
That's a very good report. Any other items, questions on the consent docket? Are we ready to vote? Okay, here we go. It's approved unanimously. Next item is item number 7, the concurrent docket. Okay. Any individual considerations or comments? Are we ready to vote? Here we go. It's approved unanimously. Okay, item number 8, items for separate votes. And it's a Ward 6 issue, an ordinance on final hearing.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I could, I just, as I have done in the past with items related to this stretch of Broadway where I'm a property owner, I'm going to recuse myself from the vote. And I would just like to comment before I leave. This has been about a 3.5-year effort, public-private partnership between the city and the neighborhood. Worked very closely with staff to put this report together. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to Cindy.
Okay. Francis, do we have anyone here to speak on this? No, we don't. Okay.
No, we're basically adding additional parking. We're trying to get a vital retail and commercial area up in Automobile Alley between 6th and 10th Street. Parking's an issue, so this is a 2-phase project. This is the first phase, which will put 45-degree angled parking on Broadway, and then we'll have a second phase coming shortly upon its completion, and do the side streets on 7th, 8th, and 9th Street, and add angled parking in there. See?
Anybody counted up the number of additional space that will be available?
Yes. Eric, what's the net new parking spaces?
We're going to be able to add in excess of 20 additional spaces to what's there now, and the number may grow a little bit. We're doing some final details on the plans, and I expect that number to increase, so more than 20.
20 on Broadway, but there'll be more added on the
Yeah,
side
that's
streets
just
now.
Broadway
That's just
alone, and I think the last count was 22, but again, it's going to climb from there.
It's good. You need additional parking.
And it is taking out a lane of traffic, right?
It will remove
for
one
parking.
northbound lane.
Is that going to affect the streetcar at all?
You know, there are some conversations that are underway that, there's maybe some impact in the future, but I think my comment would be is that we're going to need to look at the streetcar project independently once that route is laid in and what lane of traffic it's going to work in and some things like that. This really is just a restriping of the existing Broadway. There's very limited work that's being done with concrete or curbs. It's just lifting the existing paint markings up and putting new paint markings down. So the streetcar is going to require more than that. Obviously, there's going to be curb enhancements, there's going to be stop enhancements and some things, and we'll look at that when that design comes forward.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not done in anticipation that the streetcar is going to fit right down there. Obviously, that's going to be a more major.
And I think it'd be important to point out that the property owners out there participated in the project by providing some of the engineering studies.
They have indeed.
Good idea.
Mickey Clegg is in the audience. Mickey has been the contact for the property owners who we worked with on this project.
Well, I think it's important that the public know that it was the property owners who are going to benefit from this participated in the project financially. So,
Absolutely. I'm Mickey Clagg, president of Automobile Alley Historic Preservation Area, and our organization funded the original engineering study that brought this about, and so we've been working with the city on that. And I think Eric mentioned, I think we'll increase the number of parking spaces quite a bit more than the 20 that we talked about. And we're just having to look at that block by block because it's, it's an old street and there's a lot of complicating situations there. We're getting some people to close some driveways, which will add some parking. But at the Traffic Commission, we had a significant number of people, property owners and tenants along Broadway come and speak in support of it. And there wasn't anybody that opposed it.
talk about historic preservation. If you look at old photographs of Broadway, the cars were parked that way.
That's right.
Did anybody look at back-end angled parking, or was that part
We
of it?
considered it, but we, it's real complicated. People are so used to head in that we felt like, and especially where you have an area where you have outside visitors coming all the time. If it was just a local neighborhood, people would kind of get it, but I think that might be a little too complicated.
I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We'll vote now. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is item B, public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is anyone here to speak? Okay. Ready to vote on this? And it passes unanimously. Okay. Item number C, public hearing regarding unsecured structures, and I believe we have one individual signed up to speak, Joe Kitchens. And Mr. Kitchens, we'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Joe Kitchens, 8401 Southwest 44th Street. I'm the superintendent of Western Heights Schools, and pleased to be here today, have the opportunity to speak to the council about the Lantana apartments. And we're handing out a picture of those apartments on Northwest 10th Street. They're located about 50 to 75 feet from the corner of one of our schools, Greenville Elementary School. And we're very concerned about that structure. And we appreciate the fact that the council has it up today as an unsecured structure and would encourage that you follow it closely, that you monitor it closely. We feel like that it's a health hazard. It's very close to our schools. Probably activities go on in that area, even though I know that you're about trying to secure the facility. That wouldn't be conducive to a good neighborhood, and certainly not conducive to supporting the activities of our school. So obviously, we are very mindful of the problems associated with this particular property and would encourage the council as soon as possible to take the necessary action to alleviate this problem. And appreciate your diligence and assistance.
Charles,
Yes.
this looks as bad as anything I've ever seen on dilapidated.
Yes.
That goes to my question.
It is.
Why wasn't it included on the dilapidated structures, Charles?
I'm sorry, what?
Why wasn't this project not included on the dilapidated structures? Because
This is securing part of this. We try to secure it against any further damage actually existing. This is a faster contract. It gets more results. These have been before the council. Some of them are declared dilapidated.
problem is that, the price of the demolition just far outweighs what our budget is at this time.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
Well, I mean, about this property, it is under new ownership, and what they've told me that their plans are is to take it all the way down to the studs and rehabilitate it. And they say that they have the funding to do that. So this is something that's extremely important to me because I live in the neighborhood just north of it, right on the other side of 10th Street. So it's been a problem for a long time, and it's the kind of the poster child of dilapidated apartment complexes. And so I definitely want something good to happen with it. So thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Okay, we ready to vote? It passes unanimously. Okay. Okay. Moving on to page 14, item D, a revocable right-of-way use permit. The first one is in Wards 6 and 7, downtown OKC, Inc. And we have Mallory O'Neill. Hello.
How are you guys?
Good.
We are producing a St. Patrick's Day parade this year, the O-City Parade, and it'll take place on the 15th on Reno Avenue between Hudson and Joe Carter. The parade will start at 11 a.m. and we have about 40 entries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you for taking the time to sort of resuscitate a great tradition in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, we're excited about it, kind of
Thank you.
refreshing it.
I love the name. It sounds like a great plan. So I'll go ahead and move. And
Second.
Okay, so we're voting on item D1, the downtown OKC, Inc. And it passes unanimously. Thank you.
So, thank you so much.
Next item is item D2, McNally's Plaza Courts to hold the St. Patrick's Day block party, and we have Brian Pittman.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ms. Sully. Nice to see you. I'm Brian Pittman, one of the managers with McNally's. We're actually holding our 5th annual St. Patrick's Day St. Patrick's Day block party. Actually, we're going to have on the North Walker at South Air Fort on Monday, March 17th at South Air Fort. We've done a great tradition we've had for 5 years going straight. We had a good turnout for it. It's a nice little area for Midtown to kind of bring people down and see all the new things that are happening, especially now in Midtown, also itself. And we're just asking for approval to hold it.
do you think the hotel will be open by the time?
We don't know. They say that the 12th is their opening date, but we'll see. We're hoping it's a great input into the thing there also, but they had such delays itself, but they're right there. They're close, so we'll see if they're going to open on the 12th or not. I'm hoping so. It's nice.
Well, you guys have always done a really good job with this. So
I appreciate that.
Move
Thank you.
approval.
Okay, so we're voting on item D2, and it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have one from Ward 5, Shane Pratt.
Hi, I'm Shane Pratt. I'm the Associate Executive Director of the Early Wine Park YMCA. This is our 5th annual Early Wine Dash that we're proposing. We've always used one westbound lane. We're proposing to do 2 westbound lanes. The good thing about this event is it raises funds for Early Wine Elementary. We started out with smart boards first to get smart boards in all of their classrooms. We've accomplished that, and we're moving on to the fitness element now in their playground. The other thing that it supports is the YMCA as a whole as well. Split the proceeds down the middle for that event. One good thing about the westbound lane going all the way to Portland, coming out of the Early Wine Park, there's no entrance or exits that this interferes with. We've done 1 westbound lane in the past. This would propose to do 2 westbound lanes, so making it moving all the traffic over to the eastbound lanes. going both ways.
And the timing of the event? roughly?
It is the last Sunday in March, March 30th. In the afternoon on a Sunday, we've got all of the churches right around there in that vicinity across the street. They all partner with us in some way or another, either if it's just on parking. We have two of them that volunteer with us. The golf course, we only block off one of their entrances. It's something that when we first started up, we had blocked off both entrances. We talked with them, came up with a compromise, and worked together to make that happen. So.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, and we'll vote on this, and it passes unanimously. Thank you for coming down. Okay, now, item number E is to receive the amended Emergency Medical Services Authority budget for the fiscal year 2013 and 14. Jim?
Just want to point out, Steve Williamson's here if you have any questions.
I have a question. How does the subsidy that they're calling for in this particular document compare to what we've paid in years past?
It's less. Doug might be able to answer that. Doug Dollar, our budget director.
Right. This is still an increase from what we had in the past of our subsidy, but it's within our $3.65 a month that we're using for the total care program. As you recall, back in the summer, we were looking at raising that fee to accommodate what was expected to be an increase in the contract cost. Once they got the new contract for AMR and it was lower than expected, we were able to maintain that $3.65 rate over the next several years. So for this current year, because it was kind of a split between the old contract and the new, it is a little bit higher than what we had in the past. In the coming years, we actually expect it to be less than that for the full year. And so the budget that we adopted that we received in July from EMSA was based on estimates of what that contract might be. This amended version brings back the actual cost that they were able to receive from their contractor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Steve. Do we have a motion on this? Do we have a motion? Okay. Cast your votes, and it passes unanimously. Next item is item number F. It's my understanding we do not need executive session on this, so I'll accept a motion to strike. Okay. It passes unanimously. Item G, I believe we do need executive session on this, so I will accept a motion to move to executive session. It passes unanimously. Item H is claims recommended for denial. Do we have anyone here to speak on any item for claims for denial? Okay, it passes unanimously. Next, claims recommended for approval. Do we have anyone here to speak on claims recommended for approval? Okay, it passes unanimously. Items from council. The first item is an ordinance to be, it's been deferred, I'm sorry. So, with that, James, any comments or add?
Yeah, I would ask the council to consider, I don't believe the Political Subdivisions Ethics Act is part of our legislative agenda, but I'd ask maybe the council think about that in the next year of adding that to our legislative agenda. And I base that based on a conversation I had with Lee Slater at the Ethics Commission. We've concluded one election cycle, but we're getting ready to enter another in which we have 4 city council elections and 5 initiative petitions currently circulating. So I asked him about independent expenditures in the Political Subdivisions Ethics Act and what governs independent expenditures. He indicated that the Political Subdivisions Ethics Act, which governs municipal elections, is, in his opinion, the worst statute in Oklahoma and in desperate need of attention from the state legislature. And that the act, which governs city elections, really says nothing about independent expenditures. and makes clear that the Ethics Commission has no jurisdiction over city elections. And so in his opinion, I asked him because there was an independent expenditure in this most recent election which spent enormous sums of money and then never filed as an independent expenditure. He indicated that really, since it wasn't mentioned, it's really not necessary for an independent expenditure to file, that there would be nothing, in his opinion, that the Ethics Commission could do about that, that there would be nothing stated about coordination between an independent expenditure and a candidate committee. So we're really just adrift at sea. And unless anything's done over the next year, what that means is that for the next 4 city council elections, anyone can form an independent expenditure. They can spend however much money they want in any form they want. They don't have to file, much less, say who they are or how much they're spending. Don't even have to file. The Ethics Commission has no jurisdiction whatsoever over those elections, and that's what we'll be faced with a year from now, unless the state legislature were to address what Mr. Slater considers the worst statute on the books in Oklahoma. And so I just ask us as a body to look at that, us as a body to add it to our legislative agenda, and ask the state legislature to act. I'd ask the journalists, those that are still here and with us, Mr. Farley is no longer with us, unfortunately, but those that remain, I'd ask that you contact Mr. Slater and ask him about the Political Subdivisions Ethics Act and his opinion about where we are. And I appreciate your consideration. Thanks.
I have a question.
Yes.
Ed, how would you define independent expenditures?
Well, any entity that outside of a candidate's committee that forms to expend funds in an election.
You're only talking about what, and I guess the federal law is called a 527 organization.
Right. So, I mean, police, fire, any entity from Chamber of Commerce, any entity for whatever reason that wanted to come together and expend funds in a city election can apparently do so. They don't have to file, don't have to say how much they've spent or with whom.
So the police, fire departments, an example, in my election, they campaigned for my
Correct.
So they would have to file a report?
My understanding is that fire would not have to file, would not have to say how much they spent or with whom, could send out whatever mail pieces they wanted, don't have to, I mean, they wouldn't even have to put their name on it.
But in your proposal, you want to change that, as I understand it.
Yes.
That they would have to report man hours, expenses, whatever it was.
Yes, just like the candidates' campaign committees have to, that they'd have to form a committee, file with the Ethics Commission, indicate how much they're spending and with who. They file just like, I mean, that's how it's done at the state level, right? A PAC at the state level would file and indicate what they're spending. It's just not clear why city elections are different. Why something that happens at the county level, the state level, the federal level wouldn't happen at the city level.
So PACs under the state law are required to report to who they support?
Well, they're required to file. I mean, they're required to say we're forming a PAC and we're expending funds.
But do they have to
And the
tell
ethics
why,
com-
who they're, like for instance, they were supporting me, for instance. Would they have to include my name on the report?
No.
Just the fact that they spent money in an election, that's the only thing we're after.
Well, and there's one other difference is that at the state level, the Ethics Commission has jurisdiction over the whole process. What Mr. Slater indicated to me is that the one thing the Political Subdivisions Ethics Act is very clear on is that the Ethics Commission has no jurisdiction in city elections.
Okay. But I guess I'm trying to get to the PAC part of this thing. You brought up, I think, an interesting thing in PAC. Would a PAC then have to identify itself, or would they just, they would have to identify themselves? But would they have to identify the candidates they're supporting? Do they do that now in the state election?
I think how it is now is that you file and you say that you're just supporting a candidate or a issue. You don't have to actually say which issue or which candidate you're doing. I mean, that comes out with the stuff that you with the mail pieces and all. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think so. You know, because like, I mean, the fire and police political action committees, I mean, they're a committee, but they don't have to say within their filing that they are supporting this candidate or that candidate, but the mail pieces that they send out are supporting a candidate and I think that's how it works, at least at the state and federal level.
So James, along those lines, or Ed, would that change the way the signs were shown? For instance, in this election, there were signs out that said Oklahoma City Fire or Police support a candidate. And it was my understanding it was the union. So would that change the way those signs were?
And those signs said at the bottom that it was paid for by the PAC. But in a city council election, you might have 4 candidates. So they wouldn't, I don't think they would, when they file, they would say, this is the slate of candidates that we support.
Without that, I don't see how it really is beneficial. We don't know where the money's going to. Just the fact that they're collecting money, to me, and spending it on election, well, maybe I don't understand what you're saying.
I mean, it's done at every other branch of government. I guess the question is, why not do it?
No, that's not my question at all. My question is, how would this work if it applied to the city? And I don't understand it. And I'll apologize for my ignorance, and I'll do some research to find out how it works.
What if we just did it the same as at the state level?
Well, I'm not sure that's good. I don't know if the state level is good. I want to find out what the law says and how it would apply and what restrictions or conditions would apply if, for instance, with the state, if we were included in the state plan. I don't understand what my answers, your answers to my questions. I can't quite compute those. I apologize for my inability.
No, Pat, you're doing exactly what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for a specific slate. I'm just asking that we look at it and ask the questions, and you're doing that, and I appreciate it. All I'm asking is that as a body, we take a look at it, study, as you said, study other law, and decide what it is that we might want to add to our legislative agenda and ask the state legislature to address.
Okay, but
without any specific things today, I'm just asking as a body that we look at it in the next year.
Because I don't know what the state law provides, and I'd be reluctant to support anything that brought us under the terms of the state law until I knew what we were getting into. So.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Meg? Thank you. John? Okay, Pat?
I'm sorry, I had written down this and I got carried away with his comments. But on ABC license, we rezone property to conform to a certain ABC standard, 1, 2, or 3, depending on the kind of business they have. Has any thought ever been given for the city to issue those permits rather than go to the state?
I don't believe we have the authority to do that.
Well, we have the authority, but could we get the authority to do it if we change the law?
Through state law. You could have to change state law.
Okay, we can add that to our legislative agenda, just right behind it. But I think sometimes it is an extra step for our citizens to take if they open these things, or several extra steps probably. They go to the Planning Commission and have their property rezoned for a certain level of ABC, and during that course of that discussion, things like parking, lighting, all those things come up, and they're dealt with there. And then he turns around and has to go to the state to get an ABC license. I don't know if they have a hearing or an investigation, but probably not. And then but we've already done all that work. If we've done the work, why can't we make it a one-stop shopping experience for the citizen?
I understand what you're saying. I do understand the benefit of it. The state legislature has not been overly supportive of local control. And I don't want to be pessimistic, but I think that would be very difficult to do. Doesn't mean we can't try, Pat, but I think that would be
Pessimism is no excuse for not trying.
No, I understand. No, I understand.
Any other comments, Pat? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, local control to the state legislature means that the state legislature is in control. That's what local control.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Next, moving on to city manager's report.
Mike Harrier is here this morning to give us his quarterly update from CVB.
Good morning.
Morning.
Pleasure to be here. This is our second quarter report to you. I believe you all have the report in your packets. Second quarter was fruitful, as is fairly typical, not as good as most of the other quarters. Second quarter is a little challenging because out of the 3 months, we really only have about a month and a half to get things done because of the Thanksgiving holidays extending on through Christmas, and not a lot of decisions get made then. But it's a good time for us to lay some groundwork and do some other things as we move forward into the third quarter. You will see in the report that through the second quarter, we're at about 32% in terms of our bookings for the year, proposed bookings for the year. Again, a lot more activity happens in the third quarter and certainly the fourth quarter, and so we're about where we typically are, maybe a little bit behind, but we feel good about what's going on because we also have generated 150 leads with 140,000 potential room nights. So there's a lot of activity out there and a lot of things happening. Our horse show season, obviously the fall has traditionally been our primary horse show season. Great comments this year, good shows, a record for the purchase of a horse at auction here at the fairgrounds, $300,000 for a 2-year-old futurity, or during the reining horse futurity sale. First time they've ever hit the $300,000 mark in that particular branch of horse shows. And so good things happening there. We have heard a lot of good comments from our friends in the equine industry. I just returned from the Quarter Horse Association's annual convention, and they are extremely pleased with what's going on. They are looking forward to coming here for their third World Championship show, which we've just added, that will be held here in April. But they are also seeing a significant increase in the results of the breeding programs at the farms. Because of the recession a few years ago, it takes a little while. Breeding is generally the last thing that catches up, and so they're feeling good about that, and that bodes well for us. In our tourism side, we continue to do well. There's a lot of activity here in Oklahoma City, a lot of weekend traffic, a lot of motor coach traffic. We'll be hosting a significant motor coach show next May, a little bit over a year from now. But we're also, later this month, hosting a major sports show. The National Association of Sports Commissions will be here for their annual trade show, bringing about 1,000 people here from around the country. So great opportunity for us to show off. Marketing and communications, we continue to see significant increase in our traffic on our website, our mobile site, our desktop site, both. Our organic traffic continues to increase significantly. Travel journalists, we're seeing a lot of interest there as people continue to look at Oklahoma City, trying to understand how we do what we do and what the magic is here, and so we continue to see those folks. We are also, and I have talked a little bit about this, we're in the midst of a major research project. The first time that we have done our own research project since 2007. This one is a combination of a couple of different things. First and foremost, it is image research to see what people in our kind of coverage area, about a 300-mile radius, what they think about Oklahoma City, how they receive their information, what they would like to see, what they enjoy doing, what they know about us. But also it's the basis for a new advertising campaign that we will be rolling out later this year, because even though we've been using our current campaign for 5 years, Oklahoma City today is not the Oklahoma City that we had when we started that campaign. So we'll be rolling out a new campaign later this year and be presenting that to you. Our hotel tax rates continue to be strong. 40 of the last 45 months, we have had increases year over year in our hotel bed tax. We're one of the strongest communities in the United States in terms of the increase in business and increase in revenues coming in. It's been wonderful to see, and just to give you a couple of quick statistics, this comes from Smith Travel Research. At the end of 2013, we had actually seen room demand for 3.78 million room nights of business. It's interesting to note that because our hotel inventory has continued to go down even with the new hotels coming in. At the end of December in 2011, we had 15,900 hotel rooms. At the end of 2012, 15,700. And at the end of 2013, we had 15,500. And yet our demand and actual room usage went from 3.4 million room nights in 2011 to 3.7 in 12 and 3.78 in 13. So our demand, our occupancy continues to go up. In our comp set, we're second only to Austin, Texas. We're ahead of Kansas City, St. Louis, Dallas, Fort Worth. It's amazing to see the numbers out there, but we continue to be a very, very strong product and continue to see a lot of good things happening here. So the future continues to be bright. We are extremely pleased with what's happening. We'll look forward to bringing you our third quarter report in the not too distant future and give you an update, but I can tell you that things are going very, very well for us. So happy to answer any questions, but appreciate your all's continued support.
Mike, I know that you follow national trends in what's going on in the convention and trade show business that I guess are a little bit separate, but can you share with us what you're seeing out there?
Yeah, we
nationally?
do. Obviously, there's a lot of different organizations out there that do research. The Council for Exhibition Industry Research, SEER, is probably the bellwether in this, or the bell cow, I guess I should say, in this particular area. They have just come out with their latest report. The fourth quarter of 2013, at the end of that quarter, they had a 3% increase in exhibition industry activity, which is interesting because the GDP grew 2.7%, so our industry outpaced the GDP for the United States. And it was 14 consecutive quarters of increases that SEER had seen in our industry. So again, you look, just as we do with the hotel tax, that 40 out of 45 is back a little over, is back actually 15 quarters that we've seen continued growth here in Oklahoma City. Nationally, they're seeing it for the last 14 quarters. So, our industry has come back pretty strong after the recession and continues to grow. We're continuing to see good, solid numbers. It's interesting that the one major problem that SEER identified was in the government sector last year. And obviously, with sequestration and with some of the other things that happened out of D.C., that's not a big surprise, but just about all of the other industries that they track in the exhibition industry are showing continued increases, and so strong. We're expecting to see more of that happen here.
Mike, how important in the deliberations for a potential exhibitor or show is a hotel motel tax?
It is somewhat important. The big factor is what's the tax at checkout, not what's the state tax, the local tax, the hotel tax. It's how much do you pay when you check out of the hotel, total.
In Oklahoma City, what is that number now?
13.875%.
How does that compare to some of our competitors?
We did a look, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but we did a look not long ago for the geographic area of the central United States. The checkout tax is about 12.5% to 13% average. That runs anywhere from about 10% up to about 18%. And many of our primary competitors are at about 15%. Now, again, a lot of times that's driven by heavier state sales tax or city sales tax as opposed to the hotel tax.
But if I understand you correctly, the exhibitors look at total taxation at time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Who was 18?
Who is what?
Who was at 18%? It's okay.
If I remember correctly, it was Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
It was an odd, it was an odd location because it was not New York City, or Chicago, or, it was not one of the big cities that you would expect it to be.
Yeah.
it was a smaller city that, in the overall scheme of things.
Where are we with the PFM study, or is that moving forward, or?
It is. I talked to Kathy O'Connor about that yesterday, and we're bringing that back in the next couple, 3 weeks to bring that to council to go to the next step.
The actual
Authorization.
authorization to do the study?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
We do. Next up is the City Council priority briefing. Every quarterly, we do a briefing on specific areas. Today, our briefing is on provide a safe and secure community. So we have Chief City, who's going to provide the first part, followed by Deputy Chief Clay, and then Steve Williamson.
I have a question. Seeing Doug pass out these booklets, or trees, that once were trees, I want to compliment the city budget department on their forecasting. As part of my work at OCU, we had to look at forecasts. We ran some tests to determine how effective the forecasting was. And the city's forecast came up really high on the list. That we were more effective than most of the processes that could be used in forecasting. We beat there. I want to compliment them on a good job.
We just had Standard & Poor's and Moody's in a couple weeks ago to reaffirm our bond ratings, which were reaffirmed as we have a bond sale next week. And one of the things they take a look at is those type of things. Our conservative financial management always does well with them as we go forward. So, and they did, by the way, confirm our present bond rating, so that's very positive. Chief City.
Council, Mayor, here this morning to talk to you about a few of the things that the police department does to support one of your priorities, which is to provide a safe and secure community. You know, hopefully everything we do actually supports this, but we're going to go through a few things here through our Leading for Results and our strategic results that we've kind of set goals for ourselves in helping support that. Some of you have seen before, and some of it will just be an update, but we'll go through those. Aggravated assaults. Last year was the first year that we took on really trying to reduce aggravated assaults. As you know, we've had an incline of aggravated assaults or serious assaults over the past 5 or 6, 7 years. We've had that trend of going upward and a little bit every year. And so last year, in our strategic results, we set a goal of reducing those assaults by 5%. So that was 2013. Now, as of today, we estimate, because we don't have the final numbers for December, we were always a few months behind in reporting those to UCR, but with an estimation of within the trend estimation of how many assaults we would have, we're estimating, as you can see up there, 3,322, which actually is a 12% drop in serious assaults. So we did much better than we had planned on doing. For our calendar year of 14, our target is again going to be 5%. And I won't have any complaint if we do better than that next year also. You can see the 12% would amount to about 469 fewer aggravated assaults that would be reported. And that's what we did for 13. The next slide shows you a chart, basically of the trend. You can see since 2006, the trend has been upward in our serious assaults up till 2012. You know, there's could be somewhat of a correlation, and you'll see the homicides that we had here, but, you know, assaults is what I really look at. Homicides tend to fluctuate. They are assaults with the worst outcome, but aggravated assaults gives us a better idea of that trend, and the trend, like I said, has been upward. For 2013, you can see how we dropped. Like I explained before, that's about a 12% drop in aggravated assaults, which we're pretty pleased with. How'd that happen? I think there's a kind of a holistic approach. We did some things differently last year. One of the things we did was we used overtime programs in some of those very high violent crime areas. We used overtime from the money that you had given us to hire new officers. We haven't been able to hire those officers at this point. They'll actually start in the next class. some of the ones the year before, but in the meantime, we're able to use those dollars that you've given us to actually put more boots on the ground, more officers out there in the field, and specifically target them for some of these high violent crime areas. That's one component. We worked hard. We actually talked to Dr. Kennedy up at Jay's College in New York. I sent a couple of representatives. We also now have a relationship with Dr. Robin Engel at the University of Cincinnati, two people that are very forward-thinking and have done a lot of research in dealing with gangs across the United States. In fact, we just had a wonderful all-day session, some of us with Dr. Engel last week, about what we were doing and what we can do better. And she's willing to work with us and look at that and kind of follow that and do some research for us and work with us on that.
Chief, could I just ask a quick question on this chart? Did something happen between 2007 and 8? I mean, in terms of technically, did we report differently, or was there something that accounts for that gigantic increase? Or do you think it was the economy or
the reports weren't different, you know. I think, you know, we really started, I can't say it's really the economy, because staffing up to that point, we were in fairly good shape, because we didn't really stop slowing our classes down till really, you know, after 2009. So that increase is, you know, in and of itself disturbing, because I don't really have a reason for that. But anyway, I mean, so in looking at some new ways of doing things and some of the best practices across the country, you know, obviously hot spotting and putting officers in those targeted areas, we use data we have for years in trying to identify where our problems are. By doing that and putting more officers in those areas, we also worked really hard at identifying some of our most violent offenders. So kind of the trend going across the country is, you know, there's just a small amount of violent offenders doing most of the crime. So we really worked hard at identifying who those were. If they're getting out of the penitentiary, we identified those individuals because they're coming back into our community. The chances are they're going to commit more violent crime because they have a history of it. Some of the gang leaders, some of the people within the gangs, the different gangs that are committing violence, we identified those people and kept track of them, where they lived, what they were doing. Because when crime happened, and if they were involved, the thing we did very successfully in 2013 is we got them arrested very quickly. We identified them quickly because of the information and intelligence that we had on those individuals, produced not only by having more officers on the street, but also by having our gang units collecting that intelligence on individuals that were the highest risk to us. One of the other things we did, and we'll have our second, what it's called is a call-in, we'll have our second one tomorrow night, is where we have some of the most violent individuals that we know are gang members, and also other than gang members, some of the most violent individuals that are getting out of the penitentiary and moving back into Oklahoma City. We're working closely with DOC to identify those individuals. We have them come to a meeting that includes both the U.S. Attorney, myself, the DAs. We talk and discuss with those individuals. We also have a relationship with social services. So social services are there at this meeting for those members getting out of corrections to access those services. So not only are we telling them we've got them identified, we're going to be watching them. If they commit more violence, we're going to be paying them a lot of attention. But on the other side of that, if you want to make your life better, we're here to support you. We've found people here that are willing to talk to you today, to help you find jobs, to help you, you know, get a home, help you get your life back together if you're willing to. If it's a drug issue. So it's a combination, it's a holistic approach, and so that's something new we're doing. We've only had one session, we'll have our second one tomorrow. Aside from that, we don't stop there. We're making house visits to these individuals that are coming out of DOC. We're working probation and parole with DOC. If they're a violent gang member, we'll make a house visit just to see how they're doing and let them know that we know where they live and that we're watching them to make sure that they're doing what they are supposed to be doing. This is working. We think it's going to be a really good program. Again, we're just getting started. Cincinnati, where Dr. Kennedy, not Kennedy, but Dr. Robin Engel works. She worked closely with Cincinnati. They also came in last week, and some of the things that we're doing, they show data that shows how much it's reduced the crime. They have some other things that they gave us some great ideas on. So it's optimistic and kind of fun to do some new things and see how they're going to work with this subject that seems to be growing, not only here, but across the United States.
So what are we doing in terms of housing and employment?
Well, we've got individuals, we've got social services that have access to programs and things for housing. Housing is one of the toughest things. You know, for one thing, they don't automatically have money for housing. But if there's some temporary housing and things like that we can get them into, if there's drug treatment programs, those types of things. A lot of them have some type of housing accommodations, either with a relative or somebody coming out of the prison system. But we want to make sure that we're trying to give them some of the things they need. A job is one of the most critical things. It's very hard for them to get a job. So part of this program is if you want it, and we can't force you to do it, but if you want it, then it's there for you, and we're sitting right here with us.
So those are social workers?
Different social services. Some of them are social workers, some of them are actual nonprofit social services that we've identified, you know, that come to our meetings and are supporting our program.
Not employed by the city, they're just supportive?
They're just supportive. They're nonprofits. They're funded by other means. And there are individuals there's individuals we've worked with in the past through our PAL program, through our FACT program, because part of that too is to identify those social services to help families. So that's I don't think it contributes to all of it. I'm hoping for a continued decline with some of the things that we're doing, but really from a law enforcement standpoint, identifying and targeting individuals that commit most of the crime, because you'll find in the violent crimes, if you're looking at drive-by shootings, our drive-by shootings dropped by 50-something% this year. And if you look at individuals, they won't just do one, they may do a bunch in a week. Well, the quicker you can get them identified and get them off the street, the fewer drive-bys you're going to have and the less violence you're going to have. And so I think our officers did a tremendous job last year in actually doing that.
Do you have a sense of how many people per year are being released from prison with felony convictions?
I don't have that number. I know at our sessions, I think we have around 30 individuals at our sessions, and this is our second one within a year. So, we're probably looking at 60 just within those two, but that's not everybody.
60?
With our sessions total within the last year of some of the most violent offenders. Of course, they don't all come to Oklahoma City. They're released from DOC. These are individuals that are going to be released back into the Oklahoma City population. Homicides, if you look at homicides, in 2013, it went from, you show there, these are UCR. I mean, if you look at all the stories, we had 99, but not all homicides by UCR standards are counted. Officer-involved shootings where death occurred, justified shootings, self-defense shootings, things like that. Technically, it's a homicide, the killing of one person by another, but for UCR purposes, those are not counted in UCR. So you can see in 12 we had 85, and that's been reduced to 61. And there has to be some correlation probably between reduction in aggravated assaults and the number of homicides that we had. Again, homicides are going to fluctuate periodically anyway, but that was reduced last year. Now, the next slide, if you see here, it seems a little shocking because you'll look at rapes. Rapes is really the only category last year in 2013 where rape that went up. All of our other crimes had actually been reduced. Rapes went up significantly. The primary reason for the increase is that the federal government changed the definition of rape for the purpose of reporting a rape in UCR. And the definition basically of rape changed that added acts that now constitute a rape, which wouldn't have constituted a rape by UCR standards. That didn't mean we didn't count them as a rape. Didn't mean that state law here didn't make it a rape. It just meant for the purpose of tracking that there's things now we're counting that we used to not count in UCR. So that's the reason for that. So your numbers are going to continue to be higher in the rape category just because of that change in definition. And in our robberies, they also declined. Like I said, every area except rape declined. We were talking about crimes against person. Okay, our crime rates, you see our clearance rates. This is comparing Oklahoma cities to the national average. You can see that homicides, we have a clearance rate of 63%. If you look at what we're doing now, it's higher. It's somewhere up in the 70s, but these are 2012. 2012 is the only UCR numbers we have on clearance rate. The new numbers won't come out for 13 until October. They usually come out in the fall, so you're looking at 2012. We had a 63% clearance rate. We've shown our clearance rate for 2013 was actually around 71%, so it was higher. If you look at the national average, it shows 62.5%. You can also compare it to cities, which is really a more fair comparison. Cities our size, cities that have, the number of homicides we have the number in population. The city our size comparison is actually almost 51%. So, we're about 12% higher than a city comparatively to our size. Aggravated assaults were at 62%. National average is 55, almost 56%. Cities our size, if you look at cities our size, the clearance rate is 46.7%, so we're considerably higher than comparable cities. Rape, 52% clearance. National average is 40. Comparable cities is 39. And in robbery, we're at 22%. The national average is 28. We're closer to the comparable cities the comparable cities is 23. So we would be closer in the area of robbery to that clearance rate. Okay. Providing a safe and secure community based on the surveys in 2012, the Citizens Survey showed 53% of the citizens that felt like they felt safe citywide. This is for the whole city. In 2013, our Citizens Survey came back at 58%, and our target, which has always been our target since we started leading for results in 2005, is at 55%. We've kept that steady, so we have a baseline as to which we gauge ourselves on. That's what it was in 2005, and we've kept that as a baseline so we can determine whether or not we're improving or getting better than we were in 2005. Percent of citizens who report they feel safe. This is basically the same numbers over extended calendar years. In 08, we were at 47, 9, 60, 11, 54, 12, 53, and then for 13, we were up to 58. So last year was much better, closer to the highest we've had in the last 5 years. Now, our percent of life-threatening calls, one of our measurements that we have every year is how quickly do we respond to those most critical calls. We call them priority one. They're life-threatening calls. If somebody picks up the phone and they feel their life's being threatened, then that's a priority one call. Our goal our target has been, since the staffing study, based on the consultant's recommendations, is to get to those calls in 9 minutes and 30 seconds 90% of the time. We have hovered around, since we started this in 2005, we've hovered around 70 to 72%. That hasn't changed. And in 13, we were at 70.85%. We've been as high as close to 72%, but last year we were at 70. So we're hoping with the addition of more officers and some of the staffing that we'll be able to improve that. I'm not sure we'll be able to get to 90% as the consultant was recommending, but with the city our size and this large, it may be very difficult, but theoretically it should improve as we put more officers on the street. We try not to do that. I mean, we've looked at them. But it's so hard to look at the data being kept the same and how they calculate their calls for service. And a lot of times they just want to give you an average. We don't give you an average. We give you an average over not within 90% of the time. That means 10% of the time, we don't get there that fast, and up to 90% of the time we get faster. So usually if you get an average from a city, it's skewed. It doesn't give you a good look at what you're actually doing. And then also it's very, very difficult in some cases to get, really accurate calls for service from some communities and from some cities. If you look at it, if you were to average all of ours out and average theirs, we're pretty average. But that's not a real good way of determining how well you're doing on your calls, because the one thing you don't want to do is get to a high priority call, in 20 minutes. Well, again, if they calculate the same way we do, it's probably going to compare fairly well. It'll probably compare about the same. It just depends, we really haven't looked at it, because in the beginning we tried to get numbers and we had questions about their numbers they couldn't answer. A lot of them would only give it in an average, overall average, not your most important calls, how quickly, what's the percentage, and they don't measure it that way. It's very difficult. But if you look at all the studies tell you this is the way you need to measure it, because this tells you how well you're doing. So, I hate to commit on that, because I really don't have that number. And everybody tracks things differently within the community, and they may even prioritize things differently. So, it'd be very difficult. And if I were to give you a number, and if we were to do that, the best number, at best, you'd have to really,
Well, did you come up with this number then, 9 minutes, 30 seconds?
Well, it's when we started doing LFR, that's what we were doing. That's what we were tracking. We were looking at, on an average, on our priority 1 calls, how well are we getting to these calls? And so we always said, well, the best we're doing is getting to these calls within 9 minutes and 30 seconds, 70% of the time. So that's exactly what we were doing back in 2005. Not looking at the number of calls that we're taking and how quickly we're getting to them. That was the statistic we were using back then. So we kind of kept that base of 9. Now that 9 minutes and 30 seconds it's from the time that we get the call to the time that the officer arrives. So you've got about 2 minutes and 30 seconds of dispatch time before that officer actually gets that call. So it's actually ends up being almost the time the officer gets the call to the time they get there is about 7 minutes.
The 2.5 minutes is included in your 9 minutes.
Yes, it's an entire number, and I think probably that they just felt like that 7 minutes was probably reasonable under the circumstances of getting there quick enough to be able to deal with that. I mean, we'd like to be on top of everything immediately within a couple minutes, but that's not going to happen. In some cases, you'll have a car that's close enough. But, overall, in looking at all the calls for service, most of those calls we were getting to within 9 minutes and 30 seconds. That was the best percentage we were getting, 9 minutes and 30 seconds, 70% of the time. And so that's what we were tracking back in 2005 when LFR started. And so that's what we used. When the consultant came in and looked at that, the consultant felt like we should be doing better than that. There's some cities that track it at 90% of the time. And I thought that was a little high, but we took the recommendation of the consultant, and so that's a goal that we're trying to reach.
Chief, do you keep this data by division?
We can break it down to
So
a
is that, I mean-
division, exactly how well the division's doing. We can break it
I mean,
down.
because geography obviously plays a major
Sure.
role in
Right.
citywide, how quickly we can access, so.
But if you look at our calls for service, the majority of your violent crimes are going to be pretty centralized within a high-density area, and staffing has to be distributed accordingly.
Chief, when you say consultant, are you talking about Berkshire from
Yes.
2009? See, last month, Michael Walker, who was the lead investigator on that study from Berkshire, came and did a town hall meeting, and he seemed very specific that one area that we're an outlier is this 9-minute, 30-second standard. I mean, what he told the audience was that very few cities in America, and I don't remember exactly how he said it, but my interpretation was that very few cities in America would use a 9-minute, 30-second standard, and that most large cities in America would have something significantly less. And so I think it is worth having a peer study review just to look at, and I don't know how many cities he's looked at, but a couple hundred. So for him to say that we're an outlier in using 9 minutes, 30 seconds, maybe we should get a peer look at all the cities around us, similar size. Are they using 9 minutes, 30 seconds? And I understand we have 620 square miles, so it's kind of a unique situation, but.
Right. Yeah, and I can talk to Mike about it, and make sure that he's aware that that's a total, because I could easily say we're getting there in 7 seconds or 7 minutes if I leave out dispatch.
Right.
So you have to make sure that
Apples
what
to
Mike's
apples.
talking about is all inclusive of from the time the call comes in and that type of thing. Because when we had him in here at the time, that wasn't the case. Now that may have evolved because it's been
5 years.
yeah. So so there may be a whole new standard, and you may have more cities that are actually looking at it. So we can do that. We can look at cities and see, how they're measuring them and what those standards are.
Thanks.
Okay. And this is just kind of historical over the last 6 years. And you can see now where, so far this year, where it's almost 72%. So we're climbing. The high portion in 2011, we think that had a lot to do with some of our redistricting, and for a time, it really helped and increased our response time. But then in 12, for some reason, it fell back down. So we've never been below 70%, and it's encouraging that we're back up to about 72%. And again, as we add the officers to the street, the officers that you added 2 budgets ago, we'll have them in we'll have that group, or the majority of that group, in our next recruit class. So we'll start getting actual additional officers out on the street. Any other questions?
Thank you. Chief Clay?
Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to tell our part of the story about how we provide a safe and secure community. One of our strategies for providing a safe and secure community is to respond to emergency calls within 7 minutes, 70% of the time. And as they were talking about some of the measures, this measure is the response time from the time we pick up the phone in the call center till the time that we have somebody on the scene of the incident. When we pick up the pickup is when the 911 call taker picks up the phone. If the 911 call taker creates the call or doesn't create the call because the call is the caller requests fire or IMSA, then we lose about 12 to 18 seconds that we can't capture. But that's a pretty good estimate there. We feel confident that it's not anything above that, but it's in that general time frame. The actual measures, computer-aided dispatch interface began in July of 2012. We have 1 full year of actual response times, and that's FY13, which we met our targets of 7 minutes just about 61.5% of the time. And for the first half of fiscal year 14, we've hit our target a little over 59% of the time. In the 2013, we actually had a little less than 67,000 incidents. We're similar on track again this and for 14. Key measures for operational services and dispatch. One of the ways we're trying to improve our response times is by breaking down the measure a little bit to see where we identify areas that we can improve. The first part of the measure is to have all responses to fire and EMS calls within 5 minutes, 70% of the time. This is measured from the time that the lights kick on at the fire station or they get their alerting call until they arrive on the scene. The other portion of that is on fire incidents, our target is to dispatch the call within 1 minute, 90% of the time. And these are NFPA standards, and we know that we have issues with a city our size making those standards, but we feel like they're a national standard, we'd like to keep trying to hit that target. We have added 1 minute to incidents that being created by IMSA or PD due to the process that they go through to dispatch the call. Actual measures for the dispatch times. This is a comparison chart on the actual dispatch times from the inception of CAD to CAD. That was back in July of 2012. Looking at the chart, we are below our target of 90% on those dispatches, but we're looking at a few ways that we can hit our target. One of those is we've started breaking out the individual dispatchers' times that they dispatch the call in, to see if we can improve on their individual performance. Another one is that we've added state-of-the-art alerting systems to our new fire stations, and we know that those cut time off of our dispatch times because of the things that happen technically to dispatch those calls. So those stations are being dispatched quicker. And in the 2007 bond issue, we were approved to add 3 fire stations, and this will help our overall response time with the outlying areas. At the beginning of this period, it shows a dip in the graph that reflects that extreme wildland season that we had, and so the dispatch had to go through some different things to find the companies that they needed to respond because we had a lot of units out on wildland fires. They're quite labor intensive. The spike that follows that period where it goes up was the extreme winter weather, and we were responding to all EMS calls at that time and abandoned the CAD to CAD system that we went through, which allowed our dispatch times to be faster. But as you can see on the next chart, may have dipped some of our responses. This chart shows the actual key measure. This chart shows the response times from alert to on scene for both fire incidents and EMS calls. We're close to meeting our target, but we always fight that 621 square miles to cover. We just can't make that time up on the streets. It's not safe. Again, the new fire stations will help us do better on that measure. This slide shows alpha through echo calls. After our city manager report on response times a few months ago, we were asked to report our dispatch times on the different levels of calls. As you can see, on echo calls, the average time to dispatch is 98.36 seconds. These are the most life-threatening calls. These would be heart attacks or things that would be imminent death if someone didn't get on the scene fairly quick. On the average, all EMS calls take around 2 minutes to dispatch, and that's why we've set our target for dispatching EMS calls at 2 minutes. They're 124 seconds overall. This data comes from IMSA. We don't have a way to capture the different levels of EMS calls that we're dispatched on. With the CAD-to-CAD interface, we usually don't respond to Alpha and Bravo calls. That's why we saw that dip from, I think before we had the CAD-to-CAD, we were responding on about 88,000 calls a year, and it's dropped to around 67,000. So it's helped there. This next chart shows the number of responses we've had from July 2009 to November 2013. The largest decline on that chart starts around July of 2012, which was the inception of the CAD-to-CAD system, which definitely helped our overall number of responses, like I just said. For overall call volume, we've shown a steady increase in our calls of about 5% for several years. But with that CAD-to-CAD interface, it won't stop that 5% increase, but it does buy us some time on having to add resources into our busiest fire stations. Any questions? Thank you.
Steve?
Good morning. We're happy to show that our response time criteria from July through December was at the 80th percentile. That's without exemptions from our calculation. Our contract or interlocal agreement with the city shows a response time of 90%. Much like what Councilor Ryan, what police was talking about, we use a fractile response time also instead of an average. So it means that 90% of those calls have to be, in priority one situation, 10 minutes and 59 seconds or less. So you only have a small tail that can exceed that, that particular response time. So we're very excited about the fact that we are up from last year. Dr. Shadid had questioned some of the reasons for exemptions and exclusions from our response time standards. We changed those in this new 5-year bid. We have dropped exclusions from 18% of the calls to 5%. So the new contract started in November, so we have 2 months of the new exclusions and 10 months of the old number. The most exciting thing, of course, is what you received from Dr. Goodloe. He was unable to be here today, so I have the honor to talk about how the first responders and the transport employees of IMSA have been able to achieve an amazing percentage of 45.2% in sudden cardiac death recovery. I'm going to read just a little bit, so since I'm not a doctor, I have one here. I don't want to make a mistake, but the international consensus method for EMS systems and reporting survival from sudden out-of-hospital cardiac arrest is reported to survivability of those cardiac arrests due to heart-related conditions that are witnessed prior to EMS care, that then receive bystander CPR, and a lot of times that's done by actually our dispatchers on the phone telling them how to do that. And it's a rhythm that is subsequently found to be appropriate to defibrillate by automatic or manual defibrillator. Unlike TV, not every heart attack can you defibrillate on. And not everyone achieves what I'm about ready to tell you. While we certainly have saved victims of other forms of cardiac arrest, the results specifically deal with the specific cardiac arrest methodology mentioned before. In calendar year 2012, IMSA and all of the first responders in the authority service area achieved a survival rate of 45.2%. This is an all-time high for the authority service area. Only Seattle, King County, Washington area reported a higher survival rate. This is not a contest among cities, but it is a war against sudden cardiac arrest death. Equally, if not more impressive, is the fact that 33 individuals represented the 45.2%. 31 of those 33, that's 94%, survived in full or nearly full neurologically intact state, which is amazing. Once again, without the first responders and transport personnel working under our medical director, who was challenged by the Medical Control Board to provide the finest evidence-based pre-hospital care, this couldn't happen. It's one of the great assets and fundamental makeup of this model. So I am very excited for the 1.5 million people that we serve, over 1,000 square miles, and over a third of the transports in the state, that we're able to achieve this level of excellence. Any questions? Thank you,
Steve. Thank you.
And lastly, under city manager reports, Dr. Goodlow's report is in the packet in full. Steve read some of the key excerpts of it, but the full report is in the packet. And that's all, sir.
Well, thank you. Before we call the citizens to be heard, I do want to make an announcement that this is Councilman Greiner's birthday, so happy birthday. We'll start singing in executive session in just a few minutes. Yeah. So citizens to be heard, William Gonzalez.
Mayor, Council, my name is William Gonzalez. I live at 801 Caroline Drive, Oklahoma City. Walking up the steps here, I was seeing up here that this was dedicated to the great people of the city of Oklahoma City and the perpetual of good government. I moved into my house in 2006, and at that time, I was checking the I've been a heat and air serviceman for 35 years. I checked my air conditioner and found out that the duct system was inadequate. I contacted the installer, and he came back out and said, well, that's what we do on all of them. I said, I don't care what you do on all of them. This is not up to code. He changed from 2 16-inch to 2 18s. I said, okay. The house continued to be uncomfortable, so I contacted a specialist on insulation. The insulator came out and he says, according to the Oklahoma City code, you should have at least a minimum of R38 in the ceiling in a new home. I said, okay, I'll check with the county, the city. I checked with the city. I contacted David Adcock, and they said they would send somebody out. Nobody ever came, so I contacted him again. He goes, well, I was under the understanding that you just wanted us to put this down as training for the new code enforcement officers. I said, no, I'd like somebody to come out and check. He goes, what do you need to check for? I said, make sure that the R value is right. And he goes, I have no way of knowing what the R value is. A ruler. If we need to get the guys to know what a ruler is, that's how you check R value. I also told him that there was a commercial property at 801 Mustang Road that 4 of the condensing units were put in improperly. They don't have the proper distance from the wall to the unit for servicing a building. He said, I'll send somebody out there to look at it. Nobody's done anything on it. It's here on the Ream route. It says 24 inches from the wall for service. 16 is what they've got out there. I'm just hoping that y'all don't push this under the rug like they did when I brought the dirty cops to you last year.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Next person is Joanne Steers. She doesn't appear to be here. Okay. We will now move into executive session.